Worst experience working with a brand. Rank in the order of compatibility: Mridul, Sara, and She Troublemaker. One YouTuber I would never collaborate. How many creators who you've met are not really what they pretend to be on social media according to you? Please tell us about the fake YouTubers. Hi guys, and welcome to today's video. I cannot believe that my vlog completes 10 years today on the 8th of December. It is unreal to me that I've been doing this for 10 years. It is unreal to me that what started out as a hobby is now my full-time career, my profession. It's fueled me with more ambition than ever. I have a fantastic team that backs me up on everything I think of. I have a great partner who also works with me for the past 2 years. I don't know what to say but to feel more and more grateful for everything that has happened in the last 10 years with each and every day. And the one thing I think I'm most grateful for is you guys, my Wear fam. I know that I've been with YouTube channel networks before. If you guys want me to do a story time about my blogging career, maybe I'll do that another time. But I've been with YouTube networks in the past, but I started actively posting on my channel here in 2017 after I got married. Before that it was very sporadic because I had like commitments towards other channels or networks that I was posting for. And it's been 4 years of being consistent on YouTube. Like there was a point when I was doing 5 videos a week, and I'm still very consistent. I don't do 5 videos a week anymore apart from Vlogmas, but I enjoy YouTube so much. And we did dive into that a little bit on my live session on Sunday, and if you weren't able to catch up with it, I will leave a link in for you guys. Go ahead and take a look at it because we really got to chat over 40-45 minutes about different things. And in today's video, first of all, I want to say that if I look a little bit low on energy, it's because I'm a little bit tired. I've been a little bit unwell. Those of you who have been watching my vlogs and keeping up with my Instagram stories are already familiar with what's going on, so I really don't want to dive into it. But I am very enthusiastic about sitting here and doing this video, filming this video. I have no idea कि वीडियो कितना लंबा होने वाला है, so please एक बार टाइम स्टैम्प को देख लो. अगर मेरे ये रैम्बलिंग ऑन सेशन को नहीं सुनना है तो टाइम स्टैम्प इंट्रो में वो चैप्टर्स डाल के you can go over and start the Q&A directly. लेकिन I barely just about had the energy to do my makeup today. I haven't even done my hair, which is kind of in line with the way my blog started. I'm gonna go and throw up some pictures over here for you. My first few blog posts on what was then called Fashionably Ever After, not What When Where. I didn't even do makeup because I said no, I wanna like keep it real and I'm about real girl style and all of that. It was after a few blog posts that I realized, okay, but if I like beauty and I want to create beauty content, then maybe I should start wearing makeup. But I try to keep things as real as I can across all my platforms, which is why when I thought of this topic, I did a call out for questions on Instagram as well as here on YouTube on my community post, on my community section. And I asked you guys to ask me questions and make them juicy, ask me anything, and I'm here to answer them. I have not gone through the questions, but I have screenshots of everything on my phone over here. So let me not make this intro any longer and let's just dive right into it. Okay, so let's start with this. I'm gonna do my best to answer all of your questions. I'm excited for this. I'm also nervous for this. I have done the Honest YouTuber tag a couple of times before. I'll leave those video links up here in the eye as well as down below in the info box in case you want to check them out. Have you ever, just diving in now, have you ever gotten jealous of another creator and thought, why do they have so many numbers? Yeah, for sure. But you know, I feel like jealousy can be looked at in two ways. One is where it makes you resent the other person, which is not the right way. I do get jealous, but for me, I'm human, so I get jealous and I'm going to admit that. For me, jealousy, I use as motivation. Like I do get jealous and be like, wow, she has so many numbers. Someday even I would like to have so many numbers. So I don't feel angry at them or resentful towards them, if that was your question. No, then the answer would be no. In general, do I get jealous? Yeah, jealousy is an emotion and I definitely feel it, but I use it to drive me and try to do better. I think in the kind of space that I'm in as a creator where everything is so out there for the world to see, numbers aren't the only benchmark. There are people who have more numbers than me who don't work with some of the brands that I do. There are people who have lesser numbers than me that get to work with some brands that I would like to work with. So I don't think numbers is the only driving factor. There's a lot of creative satisfaction that needs to be in the picture. There's a lot of unique positioning. Are you doing what everybody else is doing? Is there something you're genuinely doing that's different? A lot of that needs to be in the mix. How did you get started with your brand? www. So What Would Wear is not my brand. Verified is my brand. How did I start my blog? My blog was a hobby. My blog was genuinely a hobby. It was an outlet. I was freelancing for this student lifestyle platform, and while writing for them, I realized that I enjoyed writing more about fashion and more about beauty and lifestyle, but more about fashion and beauty genres. And I could only submit 10 articles a month for them. So every time I had ideas that they would reject, they needed it to be lifestyle focused and not just fashion and beauty focused. So sometimes they would take a couple of articles from fashion and beauty and the rest would have to be lifestyle. I would make a list of those rejected ideas that I still loved and was convinced with. The ones that they made sense to reject, I would also be like, हाँ ये interesting piece नहीं बनेगा for so and so reason. उनको मैं completely discard कर देती थी. But the ones that I thought I could still write and do justice to, I maintained this list. And then I didn't really know what blogs was around then, because keep in mind this is 2011. My first blog post properly went up in December 2011. My Facebook page went public, and I did a countdown to the first blog post on 1st of December 2011. It's been 10 years. So a friend of mine actually, who doesn't live in India, he told me about how I should consider having my own website and having my own blog, because internationally it was starting to become a big thing. In India it really wasn't, because we didn't have like bloggers. It wasn't a career stream, it wasn't an industry, and I was like, what's that? So he gave me like some international references and said, look at this and look at that. I think at that point in time I remember there was Brian Boy, and there were a couple of other names, some of who actually aren't in the content space till today. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. And that's how I started my website and started my blog. I think this next question is very interesting. The space has become like an ad agency, honestly. It's all about an ad promotion. What are your thoughts on this? There are people who I like Sherry, me, and more. Now, what I want to address over here is that any industry that looks like it's booming, that looks like people are doing well in, people are bound to be attracted to that. Now, when I started, freebies was not a concept. Getting paid for content was not a concept. I remember my very first PR package was a couple of lipsticks, and they asked me if I would do a blog post and review it in exchange of sending me those lipsticks. And I was like, yeah, of course, why not? Why the hell not? I mean, as someone in college who was just doing this for fun, to have a brand tell you that in itself was like a really big and a really cool thing, right? So I think that any new industry booming has its advantages and disadvantages. The advantages are that when newcomers now join the influencer space, they've learnt the pros and cons, and they've learned how to strategize looking at so many people who've been around for so long. However, the disadvantage would probably be that some of them could be here for the perks, some of them could just be here for the money. Not to say that there's anything wrong with being here for the money, because at the end of the day, everybody needs to make money to pay their bills. However, in a space like this, your authenticity and integrity will take you longer than just making a quick buck. So I feel like if people come here with the intention of just making paid content, like you're saying, there's a lot of ad content. If there are people who come here only with the intention of doing ad content and, you know, kind of just that, and no organic content, no creativity, they won't last very long. It's just as simple as that. So yeah, I mean, I've tried my best to answer your question. I hope you've understood where I'm coming from. I do understand your perspective, but this is more creator to creator on how much they want their longevity to be in this space and in this industry. If you are honest to yourself and authentic and are who you are, then you will last longer. Then money will not be your priority. You will make money, but it should be about being honest with your content. Like for me, the biggest compliment I get when I meet people, and I've recently met a few people, in fact a few creators who I don't want to name without taking their permission, because they gave me these compliments, which is just so kind, who said that, you know, you really are the way you are in your videos, like your energy is the same. And that to me is the biggest compliment, because this is who I am. This really genuinely truly is who I am. That's why even when I was sitting down, I was worried about filming this video because I've been a little bit low on energy. Even when I did my live the other day, I told you guys, listen, I love you, but my energy thoda sa drained hai. I'm literally sitting here with like this band belt thing in pajamas. Please ignore the pajamas. But I'm literally sitting here like this because my back is in so much pain, and I'm treating it and all of that. You guys know what's going on, so I don't want to like get into it. But I'm honest enough to say, listen, my energy is a little bit low. I'm enthused about this. I really want to do this, but I know my energy is a little low. So I'm honest about how I feel about things, and that's the only way I know how to be honest. And I should not get brownie points for that. You know what I mean? I feel like it's very important to not give brownie points, bonus points to people for being the way they're supposed to be. You don't give, or you take away brownie points from people who, when they're not the same or whatever. But you don't need to give me brownie points for being real and honest, because this should be a given. This needs to be the standard. So yeah, just leaving that there before I complicate it with more words. Tell us about the best and worst experience working with brands. I think this question should be more like with agencies than brands, because in most of my experiences working with brands has been great. But because in this space 80% of the time, 90% of the time you work with the agency and not the brand, things can get a little bit complicated. I feel like I've had experiences where brands have completely tried to exploit me. They've, you know, got me to a brand shoot for 8 hours and kept me there for 16 hours. I've missed a family function later that night because I was at this shoot and we were only halfway done because they were so unorganized. I've had some fantastic experiences as well, where brands have been super prompt and lovely and given me full creative liberty and not been complete pains in the ass. But it's a 50-50. I feel like a lot of this has to do with who you're working with, how experienced they are. One particularly bad experience I can share with you. This was again with an agency, with the owner of the agency, and she claimed to be all things, you know, amazing. And she was a long-time follower of mine, and apparently I had met her at some event way back when. I couldn't remember when she told me on the phone. But Payal, my ex-manager, who you guys have met a bunch of times in videos, was on leave, so Jerry was managing that account. And as you guys know, Jerry, my husband, has been working with me full-time since August, September 2019. And she would call Jerry at 11:30 in the night, at 11:45 in the night, try to get like creative sorted and this and that. And Jerry would, you know, give in and be like, forget it, like I just have to deal with her for 10 days, let me close details. And because Jerry is as nice as he is, he would actually answer those calls that late in the night. Shit went south at some point of time because she mixed up in sending us hashtags, and we posted the hashtags that she gave us for the brand campaign. She realized a day later, after the post and story had gone live, that oh my god, I've given her the wrong hashtags. And she told me to pull everything down and repost everything back up. I said, I'll just change the hashtags. This is not something, you know, we can do. One thing led to another, and because the error was on her part, right? We had everything in writing. लिखत में था सब कुछ. It's not like बातों बातों में हमने deal close की है. Release order थे, emails थे, writing में चीजें थी, hashtags भी जो आए थे writing में आए थे. It's not like हमने phone पे लेके कर दिया कि there's no room for error. You've sent the hashtags. One thing led to another, and she ended up saying some really nasty things to me. And I'm someone who's a very no bullshit person. I'm a very no nonsense person. I'm very to the T. I'm very respectful, but I also will not take bullshit, right? So I kind of clapped back and said, you can't talk about professionalism with my team because my team is more than complied. I mean, I didn't say my husband Jerry or whatever. I said, Gerard from my team has been, if she knew he was the husband, she knew with what I'm about to tell you, she obviously knew he was the husband. But I said, Gerard has entertained your calls at 11:30, 11:45 in the night, and so you really shouldn't be talking to us about professionalism, because You've sent those hashtags. You can't ask me to pull the post down. I'll just replace the hashtags for you. And she goes, oh, so you don't want me to call your husband at 11:30 in the night? Why don't you do one thing? Give me a number of one of your team members who I can call at that time. I was like, you can't call anybody from my team at 11:30 in the night. My team leaves at 7 p.m. every day. Maybe 8 p.m. if it's a long day. Or okay, fine, hell, once a month, maybe they may leave at 9 p.m. because we start office at 11 a.m. 7 p.m. is like they will leave. All of them, because they get done with their work, they're very efficient. Maybe 8 p.m. like I said, if it's a long day. And she goes, what? I can't call anybody at 11:30? And I was like, no, you can't. You can't call anybody from my team at 11:30. It's not okay. Anyway, the whole thing got resolved and she didn't ever admit that she was wrong. But we had it sorted because we had paperwork and writing and all of that in place. But that was a horrible experience, and I'm not even really getting into the teeny tiny details of the things she said, which were just horrible, plain, not nice. Like, it wasn't even professional digs she was taking. It was just not nice things being said over there. Anyway, vlogging or blogging, your preference and personal liking. You know, blogging will always be my first love because I started with that and because I love words and I like being able to write long form content. But in present day, if you ask me, I'm going to say vlogging because I like sitting down and talking to you guys, and I really enjoy video as a format as well. I can't really just choose one, but 2011 Anam would say vlogging, and I feel like 2021 Anam would say vlogging. It's just that. Rank in the order of compatibility: Mridul, Sara, and She, Troublemaker. Guys, you can't do this. This is mean. How do I answer this? They're all good friends. Look, Mridul to me is like a little sister, okay? Like, she just is a little sister, and I feel like my bond with her is just really, really, really special. She's very respectful towards me, and I'm very respectful towards her. Both of us have a very different bond. It has nothing to do with being creators. We're just very, very close to each other in a completely different sense. She, Troublemaker, Meghna, and I are also such good friends. Again, very little to do with being creators. I think she and I just like we're time pass towards each other. We enjoy each other's company. When we chill, we hang. We don't have to keep talking. Sometimes we're just sitting together and like on our phones and eating a pizza. Yeah, so it's not like, it's a very, very different rapport. With Mridul, I can talk life, I can talk business, I can talk like anything under the sun. And with Sara, it's a completely different rapport. And Sara and my friendship in this set of three, it's not fair to pull in because it's like the most recent friendship. Sara and I have been friends for maybe, I want to say 3 months now. It doesn't feel like 3 months because we've hung out quite a bit and she's just such a doll. But again, Sara is the kind of person, she's not, she's very bindas. She's, my introduction with Mridul was very different from my introduction with Sara. Sara came across as bindas, whatever, Anam, from the get-go. Mridul and I had a very different bond because it started very differently as compared to Sara and I. So these are 3 totally independent relationships I have with them. I don't think it's fair to rank one from the other. I don't think I would be able to do that. Do you also bargain with your rates with brands, or is it fixed? So brands do try to bargain with creators, not gonna lie, but it's up to the creator. In most cases, speaking from my experience, we don't change our prices and we don't get into negotiations, bargain, as you said. I feel like when creator A, let's say for example, bargains the rates down and really reduces the rates, not only does it affect me myself financially, it also impacts the whole market, the whole industry. I don't want somebody to take my name and say Anam is only charging this much, why can't you also charge this much? It undercuts everybody else when you negotiate, and I don't think that's a very fair business practice. So no, if I speak for myself, I don't just negotiate when somebody is just coming and making an ad hoc booking with me. If they are booking, let's say a 6-month contract or a 1-year contract, then we do look at package costs over a contract, which is normal, which everyone does. But I don't appreciate the idea of negotiating for one individual ad hoc bookings, simply because it isn't just about me, then it's about me not doing right by my industry. And I'm a very community person, I'm a very about the influencers, about the creators. I've seen the way this industry has changed in the last 10 years. I've gone from blogs to Facebook, Twitter, you know, Snapchat, Instagram, Clubhouse, and I've been through it all. YouTube has been consistent, so I don't need to mention YouTube. So yeah, for me, that's where I'm coming from. I don't believe in undercutting others. That's a huge principle of mine. I'm wearing Monday on my lips in case you want to know. And if you haven't had any water in a while, please have some water. This is your Pani Pilo reminder. Tanushri is asking me. Tanushri has been a long time follower of mine. I remember the first time I came to know of Tanushri was on a trip to Goa in 2000 and I want to say 17 or 18, and she came up to my hotel in Goa and I was a little bit worried at first, but she was the sweetest, kindest follower ever, and I feel like now I think I should just call her like a friend because we talk in the DMs and we talk on Discord and we talk on but when I see her handle I know it's Tanushri. So yeah, if you had to pick one creator to collaborate with to launch a product, who would it be? You mean like if I was doing a verified capsule collection with someone? My dream creator collaboration would be Tati Westbrook. I was so sad when they announced Tati Beauty is closed. Oh my god. But yeah, that would be my dream brand collab. One YouTuber and brand that you will never collaborate with. Fair and Lovely. And I say that knowing fully well I have worked on Fair and Lovely lifestyle content in the past. I'll tell you what I mean by that. They had a website that they worked on many years ago. I'm talking about 2012 or something, or 13, I can't remember. And they wanted me to write content through another agency for their website. I did not write beauty-based content or how to be fair type content. I did lifestyle content for them, but it was for the brand. Today would I do that? I don't know, because the idea of Fair and Lovely in itself is a problem. But back then I did, and I would never promote a fairness product ever. So that's a no-no for me. One YouTuber I would never collaborate. Sitting under the AC and starting to sweat. Let's just say I have a name in my mind, but I'm not going to say it. Sorry. How does it feel when another beauty creator throws shade on you or your brand? Not nice, obviously. Hurt. Especially if you've been there for that creator, both publicly as well as in private, separately altogether. The shade doesn't affect me because I feel like I don't take things personally. I'm not somebody who takes things to heart all that easily. But I feel like I have more respect for any content creator in general. This isn't even just about verified, this is about just people in general. Like even if I had to give a negative review for a brand and I do anti-hauls, I talk about products that don't work for me even, I just take the name and take the, show the product. I don't believe in doing things with hints being dropped. I feel like I have respect for creators who just come outside and say it. To me, that is more of a sign of strength and more of a sign of being sure of your opinion and standing, for your own. And I appreciate that even, in fact. Yeah, I feel like if anyone is throwing shade at anyone, this isn't even just about me or about my brand or whatever. If anybody is throwing shade at anyone, I don't think it's okay. I think it's about, I'm going to rule that out as insecurity, or I'm going to rule that out to being more about the person who's throwing the shade than the person the shade is being thrown at. Yeah, that's just it. I don't have much to say or much to think about. Like I said, I don't tend to take things personally very much. And there are a few people who've genuinely given verified a couple of feedback points which we're taking into account. Publicly and privately, people have given us feedback, and I'm here for it. I'm here to listen, I'm here to learn, and I'm here to grow. If I don't listen and grow as a brand owner, then I'm screwed, because how will I do better? So yeah, I don't want to overthink this. Does blogging demand you to be a little nosy or bossy or fake? Again, I think this is a personal creator approach. For me, I'm too unfiltered to be fake. I feel like I'm verbal diarrhea. Like I'll go on and on and on about everything that's on my mind very openly and very bluntly. I'm a very no BS person. I'm a very straight shooter. Like I'm the kind of straight shooter that you will either really like or really just not like. That's just who I am as a person, professionally, personally, everywhere. You can either really appreciate my straightforwardness and honesty, or it will pinch you. I'm just one of those people. So fake to mere se hoga nahi. Nosy bossy nahi yaar. I feel vlogging is so much more about being yourself on camera. You can't make this about anything else. Otherwise, you won't be able to do it for very long, and you won't be able to hold consistency and personality. That in itself will become a problem. 3 people, Jerry not included, from the creative space who have stood by you and influenced you through the years. From the creative space, what do you mean when you say creative space? Like, do you mean creator friends? I'm gonna assume you mean creator friends, because otherwise this could just be the industry at large, even the business side of things. Not counting Jerry. Okay. Disha, my ex-manager, who became my accidental manager. She was with me from 2016 to 2017 end. Like, she was with me for a year and a half, basically. She till today is one of those people I will, she will be one phone call away if I'm thinking of something and I need like a sounding board. And I'm still that for her as well. There are times when she wants to bounce ideas off me before really getting into it. She now also works in the digital space only, on the business side of things. That's one person I can think of. Wait, you said creator front. Shit. You mean like creator friends, right? Shit. Sorry, my bad. Okay, so if I have to rephrase that and say creator friends, not counting Jerry, like you said, Mridul. Mridul is someone who's really stood by me, who's given me advice on YouTube, who's helped me a lot, who we have a very non-transactional relationship. Like if she's not well, she knows I'll call her and check in on her, and there's no work talk. And if I'm not well, I know she'll check in on me, and it's very like we're friends. It has not much to do with the creator space per se. That's a happy. It's what brought us together to be friends, but it's not what binds us as friends. Somebody else in the creator space who I'm very, very good friends with, Aditi Mittal. I have a lot of respect for Aditi. She's truly been there to support me a bunch of times, even with Verified, even before Verified. She's someone I met at the Cosmopolitan Blogger Awards in 2018. And she's just lovely. She's one of the warmest, nicest people you will ever meet, and funniest people you'll ever meet. I think I can think of only 2 people. Sorry, I zoned out for a second trying to think of the third person. Someone who's really been there through thick and thin, personally, professionally. These 2 people from the creator space definitely come to mind. Disha ka naam maine pehle hi le liya tha. 5 brands that you still use 10 years later. MAC. That's a brand I still use 10 years later. Lakme is a brand that I still use 10 years later. Maybelline, yeah, is a brand that I still use 10 years later. Gosh, I hope that in the next 10 years when you ask me this, I'm able to say Verified. A creator who surprised you both in a good and a bad way. It doesn't have to be the same person. Tanushree is getting really juicy here, huh? I'll tell you who surprised me in a good way, because in a bad way, it's one of those if you know things. In a good way, I think I'd like to name Rahil. Rahil is again somebody I met only 3 or 4 months ago. He's a micro creator, micro influencer, whatever terms they now come up with that I can't keep up with. He's a newer creator, let's just call him that. He's just really, really lovely and beautiful. And the thing that he surprised me with in a good way is that when I was talking about Verified and how I was looking for people to include and people that had interesting life stories, and that same day Rahil had told me like things in his life and stuff like that, and I was like, oh my god, Rahil, would you be part of my Verified campaign? Literally did not skip a beat. Him and Deep both, for that matter, because I spoke to them together at the same time. We were all at lunch and they were like, yes. So I guess I'd like to mention Rahil and Deep over there. They really, really, truly surprised me by saying yes in a heartbeat, and they're both so lovely and so nice. Do you feel that the beauty content industry is saturated? Everyone is churning out similar content. Yes and no. what space, what industry, what business is not saturated? Think about it. There's like 100,000 doctors and you still need more, and there's still people studying for it. There's 100,000 lawyers. I mean, I'm giving you a random 100,000 number, but you get that there's like a lot of things. I don't think there's any industry that's truly not saturated. I think the disadvantage of it being saturated is that in any case लोगों को लगता है कि हाँ ये लोग तो सिर्फ photos videos लेते हैं, इनका कोई actual काम नहीं है, seriousness, gravitas नहीं है इस industry को, which is not true. The advantage, however, is that when a space is so cluttered and when it's so full and when it's so saturated or oversaturated even now, because literally, and I say this jokingly, but it's a fact, I hear of or see 10 new creator profiles minimum on a daily basis, right? People who I've never heard of before, जिनका content मैंने पहले देखा नहीं है, which is fine. I'm not sitting here to be a gatekeeper. I think it's great that everybody wants to do this. The advantage of it getting cluttered, saturated, filled up, whatever you want to call it, the way it is that the really good ones will still manage to stand out. And when I say that, I don't mean from a numbers perspective. I mean from a quality content perspective, and even more importantly, a quality followers perspective. If you're someone who just likes to scroll, you're more likely to follow people with like lighter content, dance content, fun content, comedy content, entertaining content. If you're someone who is on Instagram and wants to look at just outfits for inspiration for your life, you're likely to follow more fashion creators. I feel the genres change for everybody, right? And that also changes with lifestyle, with age, with what phase of life you're in. So it's saturated, but I don't see that as a problem. It depends तुम उसको किस नजरिए से देखो. Thoughts on mass campaigns, honestly, I think they're terrible from a consumer point of view. I don't completely disagree and I don't completely agree either, because from a consumer point of view, you're flooded on stories like you just tap through because you know the same box is being sent to everybody. But from a brand perspective, they've made their impact. Now if somebody shows you those colors or shows you a similar box, your head will go back to that box or that brand or that campaign. So while you may be like, ugh, it's everywhere, fact of the matter is that as a brand, they've managed to get you recall, you're top of mind for them, and that's what they aim to achieve. So it is a disadvantage or an advantage depending on which way you look at it again. Sorry, I'm getting very like businessy response, but that's the truth of the matter, huh? Do you think the future is shorts, reels, short form content and not long form content on YouTube anymore? No, I don't. I do think that the general consumer will enjoy short form content for enjoyment and merriment, but I don't think that the short form content will retain consumer loyalty as much. I feel like if you're sitting here and watching however long this video eventually lands up being, it means that there's something about me that made you sit here, or something about what I'm saying that made you stick around till even like right here. So I feel like short form content is great for entertainment and probably engagement, but long form content is where the loyalty and true brand value of that creator will stand out. One creator whose business you think will grow more than others. I don't think this is about comparison, right? Like it shouldn't be that way. I'm someone who's really big on community and I feel very strongly about uplifting others as you go. Like when I see other creators launching their own brands, fashion, food, jewelry, beauty, even lifestyle, home, I feel happy for everyone. I don't think it's fair to assume kiska zyada chalega or kiska kam chalega, because business has so much to do with strategy, cost, what kind of products you're working on, what your audience is like, and how is your audience growing from there. So I don't think this question is a fair question, because everybody is doing great and everybody is doing well. Something you wish you knew when you first started out on YouTube. I wish I knew it was more about being a creator than about being a talent. Both the multi-channel networks I was with in the past did not guide me correctly on how I should understand and treat YouTube. And had I understood that better, I would have lasted with them longer, or when I would have started my own channel, I would have understood better on how to start with. I also think I would have started a lot sooner, in all honesty. I mean, I started YouTube on my channel 6 years after starting content, so you can imagine. Does one earn a lot of money in this field? no matter what job you do in the world, if you're good at your job and you are successful at your job, you will earn a lot of money. There are people who don't make money for months and years. I didn't bill any brand for anything for the first year and a half, I can't remember. But I was freelancing on the side, so that's where I made my money as a content writer for social media and stuff. So I don't think that you should come into this space thinking बहुत सारा पैसा मिलेगा, because तुम कोई भी फील्ड में अच्छे से काम करो तुम फेमस हो जाओगे. तुम कोई भी फील्ड में बहुत सारा काम अच्छा काम करो तुम्हें पैसे मिल जाएंगे. द ड्राइविंग फोर्स शुड बी जो भी करो अच्छे से करो. फेम मिल जाएगा, पैसे मिल जाएंगे, दैट इज सेकेंडरी, मिल जाएगा, बट अच्छे से करो. That is very important. Do you think it's a toxic space to welcome newcomers? Like, is there too much groupism? So I was having this conversation the other day with a few other creator friends, and I've seen groupism in my generation of creators for sure. And I thought that the newer generations of creators would not be like that, but it turns out that there is groupism. So yes, the answer to this question is yes. But having said that, I think that like there have been occasions when I felt singled out, or well, I've not been asked to come for a certain lunch or a certain dinner, or when I've not, whatever, like felt singled out of that for that groupism angle. Again, I don't take it personally because I realize that this is more about their rapport with one another than just about me. So yeah, but to answer your question, are there cliques and are there groups? Yeah, there are, for sure. One creator that you look up to, if any, Tati Westbrook, in a heartbeat. I love how honest she is, I love how authentic she is, I love how consistent with her content she is, sure, but I love how consistent with her honesty she is. And she's been on YouTube for really long, right? I think I discovered her in around 17. 17 I think I discovered her, yeah. Share if you haven't received the kind of support you expected for Verified from other bloggers. Oh gosh. I received a lot of support from a huge chunk of people. Let me just start with saying that. The people who I didn't get support from, I've just ruled it out as bandits. I've just ruled it out as it's okay. Fact of the matter is that you will only support people you want to support and people you really like or want to uplift. So I kind of just leave it at thinking maybe they didn't like the product or maybe they didn't like me enough, or yeah, but were there people who didn't support me? Yes. Were there people who received PR packages and showed me no support? Yes. Am I incessantly going to follow up and ask them for support after I've already sent the PR package? No. I also want to say that I really appreciate the people who did support me. I want to appreciate the people who really went out of their way to be there for me. From the campaign to the shoot to the, checking in on my mental health and my sleep and all that kind of stuff. But so the people who didn't support me were a lot lesser. So I'm not going to focus on them. What was your most and least favorite thing then versus now? So as a creator, my most favorite thing then and now is creative satisfaction, is engaging with followers, is listening to your thoughts on my videos. It's reading the comments, it's liking, responding, hearting, all of that good stuff. Reading, liking, hearting and responding. Let me just put it in the right order for you. Least favorite is the number part of it, for sure. It didn't exist then, so that's least favorite for now. Least favorite then was being taken seriously. Because at that time the blogger space was not like a blogger space. It was just this handful of 3-4 bloggers in India who were trying to be like, hey, can you invite us to Fashion Week pretty please? And we would probably be invited. I know I did get invited, but I was sitting like the last row. I could not get any like photos. उस टाइम तो Instagram था नहीं, but Facebook के लिए photos नहीं मिल सकते थे because you were sitting so much in the last row कि वो दिखता ही नहीं था. Cut to now where I get to sit front row, and alhamdulillah, it's been such a long, beautiful journey with a lot of ups and a lot of downs, but a lot more ups than downs, and I'm grateful for those downs also because they really they taught me good. The number game, what do you think about it and how does it affect you? I'm gonna be lying if I say that it doesn't affect me. Do I care much for it? No. But is it an important factor of my business? Yes. What do I think about it? I think that it depends on what you choose to focus on. For me, I choose to focus on quality followers, quality content, quality engagement, rather than just likes and follow account, which आजकल तो लोग खरीद भी रहे हैं, पता भी नहीं चलता है. So yeah, I don't fully understand the number obsession or agree with it, but it's a part of my business, so I try to keep up with it. How many creators who you've met are not really what they pretend to be on social media according to you? How many creators? Okay, I think I thought of 14 right now. You asked me for number and I'm answering in the number. You didn't ask me for names. How many? 14. There you go. I think we're down to the last few questions. Gosh, this video is going to be never ending is my fear. Who are the creators, influencers that didn't want to support you despite receiving the PR? Do they have their own brand and have you given them a shout out even if they didn't do it for you? How much did it cost you entirely? Da 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 da. I'm not going to answer the how much did it cost you part because I'm not comfortable sharing numbers over here on YouTube. But what I can tell you is that it was a lot of money. It took me years to put together. That I can tell you. Who are the creators? I don't want to name and shame because I believe in second chances and I don't believe in. I don't want to just be that person who takes names. That's not me. That's not classy. Would I give their brands a shout out? For sure, 100%, because again, that's just who I am. I'm not going to be vengeful about these things. That's not who I am at all. If I like their products or they send me PR, I make it a point to do thank you stories, especially for friends brands for sure. So for example, I'll give you a little instance. When I'm doing a what's in my PR video, which is coming up, even though every brand in a what's in my PR video doesn't end up getting thank you stories on Instagram, I know that Mridul's and Hailey's brands were in that what's in my PR box. I made it a point after that video to still do stories and tag their brands for sure on Instagram because those are my friends' brands and I want to support them. So I am going to be a little bit biased towards that, of course. So yeah, that's that. I'm going to go out of my way to support in whatever capacity I can for my friends, for sure. If they can do the same for me, great. If they can't do the same for me, I understand and I respect it. It's not about being entitled for "Arey mujhe pyar dikhao." It's just about being courteous and civil and cordial and being direct. Yeah, that's just my general approach. Have you ever added any extra spice or drama to a situation to make it vlog worthy? No, but I have been given advice to do this, which is why I'm gonna think about making this thumbnail very clickbaity. Maybe I should. Maybe I just should. 3 things you wish to change in the current vlogging scenario. More quality content, less obsession with numbers, and appreciation towards followers and creators. That should go both ways. Yeah, I feel like more creators should share their favorite creators' content and more creators should get to know their followers better. It should be more of a friendship situation than just a fan situation. That's why I enjoy having Discord and DM and replying to you guys and stuff like that. I like that I know where some of you live in terms of which cities you live in, or how some of you are engaged, getting married, just got had a baby, and I like knowing such things. It feels like I know you as much as you know me. I mean, you know my life so much more because I share so much more of it on the internet. But yeah, more of a connection. Have you ever said no to any big brand with a huge payout because you didn't like the guidelines provided them for content? Please name them, and also did you regret it later? I won't name them because I don't want to end up getting sued, guys. But yeah, I have, and this is not just once. We say yes to maybe 60% of the business that comes our way. So we say no to a lot. I personally say no to when I say we, I mean my team and I. We say no to a lot of business as well, for sure. And it's time for the giveaway in this Vlogmas video. Go ahead and read all of the instructions mentioned on the screen really carefully and follow them to the T to be able to win this giveaway. All the best. Nowadays, there are many content creators, influencers coming. Do you really think that they're influencing people or just doing this for the money, fun's sake, or making content? Okay, so I feel like we addressed this a little bit earlier, but I want to dive into one specific thing that you said here. Do you think they're really influencing people? I find it crazy that we even have to call ourselves influencers. It's like saying when you go to a doctor or when you want to become a doctor, you don't say, I want to be a healther. Influencing as a verb should just be something that one does subconsciously. Say that my job is to influence people. I find that really weird. That's why I call myself a creator. Sometimes in certain settings I go with influencer because I understand the context of it, but just the word by itself as a career descriptor does not make sense to me. So I like to call myself a content creator and not an influencer. Just gonna put that out there. Like, influencing is something you do as part of your job. It can't be the name of your job. That's my point. Do the number of views matter to you or give you sleepless nights? Love your content. Thank you. They do give me sleepless nights sometimes, especially here on YouTube, because I feel like I put in a lot of work on YouTube and a lot of time, effort, resources, my team's time and edit, going through everything, scheduling things, Vlogmas. And the fact that I have close to no ROI on YouTube, yeah, it does bother me a lot of times. But I keep telling myself I'm doing it because I enjoy it, and because it's like an add-on to me creating content. It's something I like to do in addition to everything else I do. Have I considered quitting? Yeah, I have, because business-wise this sucks up a lot of time and doesn't really have a financial return on investment for me. It does give me sleepless nights, but I'm not quitting anytime soon. Do you think the creator community is judgmental or stereotypical? Would it be hard for a budding creator mentally? I don't think it's right to put anything in a box. I don't think it's right to put anything in a category or in a stereotype. Are there people here who are judgmental and stereotypical? Yes. Are there people who are not judgmental and stereotypical? Yes. If you come here, is it going to be tough on your mental health? That's more about you than about like anything else. The world is a tough place to be in, and I feel like if you're confident of yourself and you learn to carve yourself a niche, you'll be just fine. How was your Netflix filming experience? It was really great, to be honest. It was a 2-day shoot and it was so much fun. Anything else on the cards? Just gonna smile and leave that here. Please tell us about the fake YouTubers that you know of, like people who pretend to be different from who they are in real life. Also, the influencer that became different with you over time due to your growing popularity. If I answer this question, I will just get into trouble. I will be called out for creating drama and stirring the pot, and I'm not somebody who creates drama or stirs the pot, so I'm just gonna let this be. Are there creators that I'm thinking of in my head right now? Yes. Am I going to name them? No, because it's not fair. I believe in second chances. I'd like to think that whatever experience I've had are isolated or basis the situation or circumstance, and I like to give people second chances in a nutshell. Your take on those YouTubers who speak ill or throw shade on fellow YouTubers or brands? I don't think it's cool to throw shade on anybody, you guys. I think that if you have a product review, brand review, YouTuber review, just give it taking a name. नाम लेके बता के खत्म कर दो. ये शेड वेड मत थ्रो करो, बिकॉज सीधा नाम लेके खत्म करना है, कर दो, डू इट. I don't know, that's it. Again, if you're worried about like burning bridges and you actually want to give second chances, then don't throw shade also. Not just let it be. Like, I don't know, like, guys, which Indian YouTuber do you like and which do you not like? Be honest with names. Love you from Bangalore. You love me but you want to get me into trouble. I'll tell you who I like. I love Shreya Jain's work. I like Jovita. I think Mridul is fantastic. I feel like there's so many new creators, old creators, classic creators who've been there for so long. And yeah, who I dislike, I'm not answering. Why your subscriber count is less despite of being active from the last so many years? I actually have been active on YouTube only for 4 years. When I started YouTube properly on my own on this channel in 2017, I think it was Feb or March or something, I had some 2,000 subscribers. Those 2,000 subscribers came from my blog base and my Instagram base and my and the fact that I would sporadically upload here before 2017. But I don't think 2,000, 250,000, 240, I don't know what number we're at right now. 247 is the last I saw actually. I don't think that's less. I think my views are less, and I have a theory as to why my views are less. Leave a comment if you've made it so far into the video. Leave a comment down below and tell me if I should share this theory with you guys, because I have a very interesting theory as to why my views are less. I'm seeing so much cringe videos daily. Babe, have you seen the content? आज भाभी गुस्सा है, बहुत मार पड़ी kind of content, cringe content and alert. No hate, but don't make it TikTok kind of platform. I used to learn so much from YouTube, but these days algorithm has the account. You're entering into this almost day-to-day vlogging. What's your view? Hope you take into consideration the pros and cons of putting such good content and yet above the mentioned cringe content is getting beyond million views. Number is not important, but connecting people and good content is. Keep putting out good content. I eat my dinner by seeing your videos. Or I think that easy content, I'm not going to call it cringe content because cringe is very, very subjective. Content that's very easy to consume is going to have a much massier acceptance. I think that anything that's very easy or entertaining or funny or ridiculous, like, haha, like gag content, is going to be a lot more accepted on a very, very, very massy scale. Can I compete with that? No, I can't, because I don't create content that's so massy. I don't really do content in Hindi also, right? I do content in English. I did start a Hindi channel in the middle that I've just basically abandoned, bichara. Someday I'll go back to it when I have time to it. But yeah, I don't think there's anything right or wrong with it. I feel like if you're wondering that cringe content is doing well, the true question is, why is the audience thinking that cringe content is so good? That's why they're watching it, right? So I feel like this is more to do with the audience than the creator. And again, I think cringe is very subjective. Some people find cringe not cringe, or some people find what you think is cringe, they'll just find entertaining. So it's a very subjective space. Okay, that was our last question. My god, that was a lot of juiciness right there, and I hope I did well enough for you. I'm a little bit nervous about this video, and God knows how long it's at this point. Please go have some water if you haven't had any water while watching this video. I am going to end this video with a little reminder that we have a flash sale going on in celebration of my blog's 10th anniversary on Verify tonight till midnight. And keep talking to me in the comments, you guys. I love reading, liking, hearting, and responding to each and every one of you all the day, every day. And this video is where fan comment shout out goes to Nazia Rafat. So thank you so much for hanging out with me, for sending me all these amazing questions, for keeping it really juicy, maybe a little too juicy. And I'll see you in the next one. Mwah. Bye. See you tomorrow, because Vlogmas.